Tuesday, March 24th, April 24th, at 5:07 p.m. Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Trustee House.
Here.
Trustee Muhammad.
Here.
Trustee Henry.
Present.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll bypass pledge, prayer, and we'll go to old business based upon the agenda that you all have, and old business, and that'll be the TIF presented by Trustee Henyard. If you could, you have the floor.
Sure. Yeah, that's the one she got through though.
And it's on there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the old one you printed. This is the one from South Holland.
Try that mic, the other mic. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Basically, we put this on the committee today to just talk about the different options. We put it out for bid for 2 other companies, or RFP. We're going to get the information by the next board meeting. That way the board can choose which company they want to do the TIF. So
They
that's
don't know the location. They don't know what location and stuff.
what, to come to the board? What?
No, you said the TIF district, where it's at.
Oh, it's for 300 West Sibley is the location for the TIF district that we're currently trying to get done.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Henyard. Okay, what we'll have is the department heads come up one by one to give us an overview on their budgets, whether they're at budget, under budget, over budget, and any questions that we may have can address. Since we have Melanie Fitness, if you could, Mr. Fields, we'll do you first. Were you able to have that for me? Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. Oh, you're comfortable there? Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Fields, from Director of Melanie Fitness Center. And I believe I am just presenting the budget, or you all have the budget, or questions or concerns. I didn't have like a presentation for you all.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Trustee, what I did was I asked each department head to be available to answer any questions that you all may have. We're not doing the same format that we've done in previous years with our presentation.
Well, but everybody's received the actual budgets, right? The budget to actuals, correct? Every department head has it. So the most simplest question I would ask, are we at budget, below budget, over budget at this point? Because we'll be signing off on the new budget no later than July. So we're talking about 4 months. Where are we at the Melanie Fitness as far as where we at on our budget?
Currently, we are are we speaking 2007, or the previous or upcoming? I'm sorry.
If you can, the just where we're at for fiscal year 2018, and then the budget proposal for 2019. And I've seen both of them, but just kind of talk through for 2018 what you think went well, what you think needs improvement, recommendations, and then how 2019 will look.
No problem. Thank you, Trustee House. Currently, right now at the Melanie Fitness Center, we are over budget. We are over budget in several areas. But we, as far as last year, we did not, we had an approval for our budget previously, and in that budget, we stated a percentage for new equipment and certain other things in certain categories like miscellaneous expenses, janitorial supply, and equipment. And some things we were not able to get. Per se, speaking as new equipment, we were not able to purchase any type of new equipment. Mm-hmm. So none of that area was touched as far as the equipment is concerned, but we did have to begin to go into, tap into the resources in that equipment for other things like janitorial or supplies. We had several incidents where the HVAC systems broke down. We had to get new heaters or new boilers for heaters for the pool, boilers or steamers for the steam room, motors for the hot tub. So some expenses that we were not expecting to pay out, we end up having to tap into.
Quick question for you. Two, number one, and we'll get in, you said over budget in certain line items. I need to know that, but before that,
Yes,
how you
sir.
think about that. You mentioned some motor heaters out. Have you been in communication with Scott Gilmore?
Scott Gilmore, yes, sir.
And was he able to put a proposal together on each thing that's out and what it would cost? Because some of those we have warranties on. Some were put in 2015.
Absolutely. And he knows just about pretty much everything in that building. And he was the one that suggested calling, the company's Accurate or whichever company that I had to contact to get some information as far as what we had available as far as warranties or if they were sending people out. Because some things I saw, and he actually had to tell me that they were supposed, like our steam room company, when they're supposed to come out to do like any type of checks or any type of issues that we have, they're supposed to do some cleaning of the system, just general basic cleaning. That's in our contract. That's what they're supposed to do, and they were not doing that, and it was actually causing more problems and issues. In which we had to keep calling them out to come out to fix this, to fix that. And then we recently just had to get a new, I think it's like a board, some type of part of the computer board that burned out. Well, that is due from lack of cleaning. So my understanding was that Scott knew that our warranty provided this service and that, or these services that they were supposed to do. So he was able to work that out and get that taken care of within our contract with them.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out the items that you said
Okay.
are in disrepair. What is the status since Scott Gilmore is involved in it? What's the status of us getting it done, and how much for all that you just listed?
Right now, I don't have the figures for the last thing that we just fixed, which was the steam room just the other day. Currently, everything is pretty much up to standard.
You mentioned the HVAC system.
Yeah, they're constantly working on over the pool and over the gym. The heater goes out, or the blower motors go out, or for that matter. And I don't have those invoices that would state exactly what the problem was once the laborer came out to assess the problems or issues. But they are up to standard as far as I know.
Before you tell me the items that are over budget, who is your liaison now that we have no village administrator, that you have a day-to-day contact to help you with some of those challenges that you have?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I read your email about you being like a one-man band, for lack of a better term.
Yes, sir.
Is there someone here at the village that you can reach out to for assistance that can help you like a village administrator?
I constantly stay in contact with Ms. Janice Johnson and Ms. Yvonne Redmond, I'm sorry. Before it was, a lot of times I was talking with Angela in HR for, staffing issues and problems.
But
that's
something
pretty-
major like a blower motor, because that's expensive. And
Right.
we have a warranty. Who would help you to make that happen?
Either I would let one of them know, but most likely Scott Gilmore would be the one that comes over and talks with whomever as far as whatever we can spin out or how they're going to fix the problem.
And maybe you can help me with this, Ms. Redmond. So Mr. Gilmore will come with an invoice, I guess, to you, or a proposal.
Yes.
Is that how it works?
Yes, and actually, as an example, we actually had an instance this morning where he had come to me regarding his roofing issue. He wanted to know, there's an issue with the roof, so he wanted to know what amount he's allotted to spend for the roof. And before I give him the okay, I have to know how long the project's gonna last or what have you. And he does know to keep costs at bare minimum.
But most of what you named, he can fix, correct? He can do that in-house. That's what he was hired for. Roofing, he does HVAC, electrical, plumbing, he does carpentry. Has he been able to do that himself, or we had to outsource all that you just listed outside of the motors and the hardware?
Right. Outside of the actual company and what they supply, Scott Gilmore is the only one that comes over and does any kind of repair or work or.
Okay. You say you're over budget in what items on that you can recall that you're over budget in? Would you be over budget in salaries?
We are, we're over budget in, I believe, salaries. You stated anything or any areas or line items that I think would be better or we could have improved on, and I definitely believe in the salaries. We pay a lot of money in independent contractors, a lot of money. We offer a lot of free classes at Melanie Fitness Center, and I'm not totally suggesting that we do not offer free classes, but I believe the only way, if in fact the Melanie Fitness Center were to ever be a lucrative company or business that would generate good revenue, they would have to find a way to generate that revenue, and some of that would be taken back from paying people to give these classes to actually promoting these classes or relevant classes to paying customers.
Okay, so I can understand it too. When you say salaries, that includes independent contractors, because salaries for us is a little different.
Right, I'm sorry.
You got a
I'm
village
actually,
employee.
right, I'm the only currently salaried employee. Everyone else, I'm sorry, myself,
Lori,
and Scott are village employees. Everyone else are independent contractors.
Okay. So you mentioned, so we're okay in the salary, we're not over budget in salaries.
Right.
You think we are over budget as far as independent contractors. Is there any other line item that you can think of that can be improved upon that we've been over budget on?
Our supplies, or where we have office supplies, that went over because again I had to kind of take from one to not overindulge in another. I really didn't do anything with advertising this year, this previous year.
Advertising, do we still have we have a contract with the receipt company with Food for Less. You familiar?
Right, we no longer have that.
That's out.
Right.
Okay.
When I first got there, I was assessing pretty much everything that was beneficial there and the things that were not, and that just didn't seem beneficial. I believe it was somewhere around $3,000 that we paid for that.
For the year?
For that year of advertising for us, for Melanie Fitness. But when I counted the receipts, I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was somewhere under 30. So for $3,000, we got 30, maybe 30 new customers, and then just as far as the return on the investment just wasn't.
So for over budgeted items so far, I got independent contractors and office supplies.
Then, of course, operating supplies, because we had, like I said, a few issues that came about.
And if I recall looking at it correctly, I don't know if it was so much over budget on expenses as much as we did not achieve the revenue that we had anticipated.
That is correct also.
And I won't say that as a shot against any employee, because I think we've had various challenges, like you mentioned, equipment and support from financial things to help better market. So I think it's the Melanie is something that is a big item, and as the board, we've been looking at the sale of it, because we can't continue to have a financial challenge there. But at the same time, we want to try to do everything possible to minimize that while we come to a conclusion on what the direction will be for that.
Yes, sir.
But I think the revenue not reaching the level we anticipated probably is the biggest hurdle that we will be looking at.
Yeah. Before I as you all know, I started November 7th of 2016. From that period of time until the end of January, so as of February 1st, we had generated, February 1st of 2017, I believe it was 28,000 or something like that. But either way, it was a very positive number considering previous sales goals or previous months where revenue we were under budget, we were in the negative basically. And a lot of that is due to the issues that you stated, the lack of equipment, just the complaints as far as the the upkeep of the Melody Fitness Center.
So if I can, maybe with the board, because I think you mentioned something about the free classes as well. Like to get the feeling from the board if we would be okay with Mr. Fields implementing some kind of fee for the classes that you're suggesting, or maybe expounding on what the fees would look like, as well as how other fitness centers compare in terms of those fees.
Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of fees, and you sent me that we have a little over 1,000 members, but you weren't able to put the categories, whether it's silver sneakers or what.
Yes, sir.
Because
I had trouble generating a good spreadsheet for the actual types of memberships we have. Of course, like 1-year memberships. We do advertise on Groupon, 3-month, 6-month memberships, and pay-as-you-go memberships, and year family memberships. So it was hard to generate that, and so I called our actual company, that our support team, but I hadn't got a call back today. And so hopefully by tomorrow, like I told you on there, just a little more time, and I'll try to get that to you as soon as possible.
All right, so were those the only 3 line items that you feel that, and I'll dovetail with Trustee House for the lack of revenue, those are the only 3 items? Operations supplies, office supplies, and independent contractor?
Pretty much, but as far as any recommendations or ideas, I could definitely bring those to you as well, but just for an example, line item 652 operating supplies, or I'm sorry, 654 janitorial supplies. We were under in that category, but you see as an operating supplies, which is 652 above it, we were just slightly over. So like I said, a lot of things I'm just kind of trying to weigh the scale on them so that I don't tip over too much, but we have quite a few things that it's hard to generate or hard to figure what exactly to do. Some things, like Ms. Redmond said, we have to find out what I can spend and what I cannot spend. Like we had some complaints and some issues when it came to some complaints from some of the members about the cleanliness of the Melody Fitness Center, that it really needs a deep clean and it really needs a company, but a lot of companies' proposals are astronomical as far as what we can do financially. And so those things affect everything as well too, trying to keep up with some equipment, trying to get our supplies and things of that nature.
Okay, I didn't have any more questions. If the trustees don't, I mean, you can join the audience because the residents may have some for you later. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, Chief Collins, are you prepared or?
Just give me a few minutes.
Okay, Chief Dyer, could you please?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Afternoon, evening. What is it? So I have 5 line items that are over budget. I'm over budget right now. The first line item is premium salaries. That's our overtime. Budgeted at $415,000, and we're at $428,000 in overtime right now. Our
That's based on your budget to actuals that you're reading
budget
from?
to actuals, yes.
Okay, thank you. And what else besides premium? I'm sorry, interrupt you.
It's okay. It's okay. Salaries, exempt salaries. We were budgeted at $178,000, and we're at $227,000.
For the residents, explain to them what exempt salaries are. And
The exempt salaries would be myself, Chief Rush, and my assistant Sherry Britton's salaries.
Ms. Hatchard, her position would be clerk or what?
She's my executive assistant.
Executive, you got an executive
Yes,
assistant?
executive assistant.
Okay, yes, sir.
Then the next line item is public education. We were budgeted at 3,000 and we're at 4,000. The next one is organizational memberships. We're over, it was budgeted at 2,500 and we're at 4,900. And in that one, I'm not really sure what items are included in the organizational
Would
membership.
you know that, trustee? Okay. That's
And-
not classes that you all would take or certifications?
No, that's
or-
something different. We have training, a lot of money allotted in another line item for that, and we're right at that number, so that's not it. And last but not least, other miscellaneous expenses, budgeted at 8,500, and we're at 10,300. And those things are like expenses around the firehouse, things that we have in the firehouse.
Okay, give me those numbers again.
Starting from the beginning.
No, for the miscellaneous expense.
We were budgeted at 8,500, and we're at 10,349.
Give me an idea of what some of those miscellaneous expenses are.
I believe one of them might be the cable bill.
Oh, that-
I'm not sure what the other ones are.
Would you know, Ms. Redmond?
I don't know, something.
Okay. But the biggie, I mean, those are small compared to the primary one is, of course, overtime. And I guess you have a solution for that. If you would like to express that to the board and the public, you can.
Okay.
Because that's the biggie, which is the premium salary or overtime, which has been an ongoing challenge for us. And you have some solution for that?
I believe I have a solution. Let me look at these papers. Of course, I don't have it. One second. Well, I know the numbers. So right now, our overtime is at 400 and
15.
actual is 428,000.
That you
With the-
budgeted for.
No, that's the actual right now.
That's actual.
It's
Okay, so
428 right now. We were budgeted for 415.
Gotcha.
We put together some numbers. If we hired 4 more people, 4 more members, it would cost a total of 343,000 a year. So right now we have enough money to pay in overtime 428. So if we hired the more members, the less overtime would be worked. I believe it would cut it down at least 75-80% of overtime if we had 4 more guys to work, because right now we have a minimum manning of 4. On one shift we have 6 guys, on 2 other shifts we have 7, with days off, vacation days, people sick, and just medical layups. That takes 4 of the guys away from the 7, and we're already at 3 guys, and we have to mandatorily rehire somebody. We have to have a minimum manning of 4. So my thought is, if we add 8 guys on each shift, I mean, you can't account for somebody getting sick, but if you want to say, well, what if 2 guys get sick? Well, what if 2 guys get sick now? That means we have to rehire 2 people a day. So if we had a minimum manning of, a minimum staffing of 24, 8 on each shift, that would cut down the overtime. And it's in the, I know it looks like it's easy on paper saying that we have $428,000 to pay in overtime. I know it looks like that easy on paper. But when we did the numbers for the salaries, the insurance, all of that calculated up for 4 new members for the first year, it came to be $343,000, which is almost $100,000 less in overtime than overtime. And those guys will work more hours because right now we're paying overtime time and a half and getting and less hourly work from them. So I believe that would help.
Okay, well, we have been in conversation with Ms. Redmond on that, and hopefully we'll have a solution, by July, hopefully, whether we can implement that or not. So it's still in its developing stages, and she's got some outside sources that she's talking to see how we can overcome that challenge.
And it, and I don't like to, I always base stuff on safety, and I always say you can't put a price on safety. So right now we go out of the door, 2 guys on each engine, or 2 guys on the truck, 2 guys on the engine. That may give us sometimes 4 guys, or 5 guys total, 6 guys some days, because we'll have more guys available, and it'll make it safer for the guys and for the citizens. Because right now they're doing a lot of load. We have a lot of ambulance runs, go to fires in town, out of town. So that'll take a lot of stress, and it'll take a little stress off of the people working a lot of overtime, because they're working a lot of hours in overtime, obviously, by the numbers. And that's why we ended with back pain, or, people laying up with back aches and, all those kind of, medical problems. So I think that would help.
Well, I know what would be helpful also on May 7th, which is our regular board meeting, you're going to propose the proposal that kind of offsets some of those expenses where we
Right.
might see
Probably recovery.
$140,000 possibly, I believe.
It was up to 140,000.
Okay, so we look forward to that.
Okay.
I had no more questions, Chief Dyer, unless the board had some. If you would stick around for the residents in case they have it. Chief Collins?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so we are actually going over the budget for the current of what we have going. Okay, so in the area of what always is a big issue are the premium salaries. That would be our overtime. Right now, for the latest budget to actual, we have used 132%, 132.39% of that. What occurs with overtime is we do not, or lately we have not been creating issues where we have overtime. The overtime that we do have are the uncontrolled items. The more officers make arrests, the more they have to be in court. Whenever they appear in court, they are paid per contract overtime. Officers that call in sick, we have to fill those slots with officers to call them back. Call other officers back to fill those sick time slots. Same thing with vacations and whatnot. And also when crisis occurs out on the street, when we have major crimes, we have detectives that are on call. We have officers that have to stick around from their shift. So a lot of that overtime are the uncontrollable items, but we do take measures to control it as best we can by not creating those situations where we have to pay officers overtime.
Could I give the number? I know you said you're at 132, but what is the budgeted form where we're at this point?
I have estimated actual at $529,577.77. Is that the figure you have, sir?
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
Miss Redmond, she might have it. And what's the other number?
That is the premium salaries, $529,577.76.
Got it, okay. $529,577.76.
That is correct.
Okay, got it.
The next area is the exempt salaries. The salaries of myself and the deputy chief have not changed, so that should be a static item. And I do not know why that would be over what the budgeted item was for. I would have to pose that question to the finance department because none of our salaries change. We don't make overtime, and we don't have comp time
Right,
to cash in.
right.
Chief, exempt would include yourself, deputy chief, and also your lieutenants and sergeants. They are an exempt category.
Although the sergeants and lieutenants make overtime?
Yes,
Okay.
we just,
But how could they be exempt if they're not?
it's just strictly classification for our software system. That's all.
Okay. But
Right, 'cause
overtime is
typically-
accounted for within the larger number of overtime premium salaries. Okay, So
Okay.
it's included, it's in there. Okay.
It's typically an exempt salary is defined by the Department of Labor. You won't be making overtime on that. So now I understand what you said. The other area is FICA tax. Of course, that is controlled by paychecks of persons. We are at 108%, 108.59%. So for the FICA tax that comes out, it'll be $105,310.85. Maintenance, vehicle, in that category, the dollar amount is $163,616.11. In that particular category, the amount of percentage used is 204.52%. So in the vehicle category, this is the maintenance, having to fix vehicles, obviously from traffic crashes, whether they be our own fault or the fault of someone else hitting us. Those vehicles have to be repaired so we can get them back out on the street for our officers to patrol in.
So, question for you.
Yes, sir.
So it's not a matter that we have an old fleet, it's that bump up, that it's at, that amount is because we had a high incidence of accidents this year, is that what it is?
That also combined with our fleet, the majority of the fleet is a decent fleet. But of course, obviously, there are maintenance issues. You have to do oil changes, you have to replace tires. And the tires, because the cars are driven almost all 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, the tires wear out faster than on other cars. So we have to replace tires more often. We also have the car washes. We talked about the car washes. But the big majority of it is replacing parts and fixing the cars after there's been some damage to it. Now, certain damage we can really get away with, dents and dings and things like that. But when you're talking about major car parts like fenders, things like that, then obviously we have to replace those. And that has driven our costs up. The next area is janitorial services. This particular area, what I actually budgeted for when I presented it to the board to hire one particular person, the budgeted amount should have been $18,200. However, in the budget to actual, it appears that we have 595% over budget, which is incorrect. The actual amount spent in that particular category is $10,722.25. So we haven't even reached the $18,000 that was budgeted. So these figures here are incorrect.
Was something included in that, you think, why it went over that number?
No, it was a coding error. So on the budget, it shows 1,800. It should have been 18,200.
Okay, that's why that big, okay.
Okay. In the next category of other miscellaneous expenses, the actual dollar amount is $53,227.14.
What category, what is that item?
That is line 598, other miscellaneous expenses. And
And give me that number again. 500?
$53,227.14.
Gotcha.
So that particular line item, budget to actual, is at 177.42%. And I will give you an idea of what some of the miscellaneous items are. Printers and certain equipment from CDW. Also, Andrews Printing, items from Menards, Kurtz, Ace Hardware, some items from Eagle Uniforms, Ellis Systems, that's our actual filing system, and And those are, yeah, Pioneer products. Those are our cell cleaning supplies to sanitize the cells. So those are some of the examples of some of the items that come out of that line item.
Okay.
Moving on down to line 651, office supplies. That, the dollar amount for that is $15,142.90. We are listed at 151.43%. So some of those items that come out of that line item are Staples. We do business with Staples so that we can get basic office supplies, paper, toner, the ink for all the printers. And also out of that would be replacing any type of office furnishings or office like staples, paper clips, and things of that nature. And moving on to office supplies, I'm sorry, operating supplies, line item 652. The dollar amount on that item is $22,313.76. And that particular line item, it is at 148.76%. In this particular area, operating supplies, it could be like the office supplies, but it might be various pieces of equipment that the officers can need to use, or it might be ammunition, which is required. We're required to qualify twice a year, according to state mandate. That's an unavoidable cost for qualification, and ammunition is not inexpensive. That is one of our one of the expensive line items. So things of that nature come out of that line item. And overall, from this budget to actual, we are at 117.6%.
Okay, I'm waiting for you to get to item number 655, which is the automotive fuel oil, because that's a biggie. And my question on that is,
Okay, I see it.
where you
Here,
purchase your fuel for your cars?
we do not purchase the fuel. I believe the cost is split up between departments, and of course, we have the largest fleet, so we go to the pumps at PW and gas up whenever we need to.
So it's shared between you and Public Works, pretty much.
Public Works, I'm not sure if fire department gets their fuel there.
Yeah, I only think they got like, what, 2 or 3 vehicles that go over there, though, right? Because you all do the diesel. Oh, we got diesel over there, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So the police department doesn't actually make a purchase of fuel. I guess this is part of the overall cost. It's just split up among departments.
I got you.
Okay. And that particular line item, according to my sheet, is at 85%.
Yes.
Okay. And all the other line items are under budget, and the total overall average, we're at 117.6.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna kind of piggyback on your 117%. So 17% over budget. I think the areas, and you've already kind of gone through them, the overtime and the vehicle maintenance seem like they were the most variance
Yes.
between the budget. So could you just speak to what the plan is this year to not have the variance, or that we anticipate a little bit more?
Specifically related to vehicle maintenance, I'll focus on traffic crashes. So what we have been employing is, if there's a traffic crash and the officer is at fault, and we deem that that officer is at fault, then the officer will be suspended without pay for whatever the appropriate amount of time is, which acts as an incentive to be more careful when you're driving our squad cars out on the street. Also combined with training, and we also did with our insurance carrier, IPRF, a mobile vehicle training simulator so that the officers can actually go through training, defensive driving, driving on the offense, just how to get through traffic, lights and sirens, how to just basically drive down the street without hitting anything. So combined with training and other measures with discipline, hopefully what has actually dropped down our accident level, but we still have the problem of meeting our deductible. We have to pay up to a certain amount before the insurance kicks in. But the plan is to continue with measures to keep an eye on it. We don't let these traffic crashes go. And the ones that we can't control are when people run into our own squads. We just end up on the hook with that if those people don't have insurance.
Do you think that for this year we would need to increase the budgeted amount?
I would recommend leaving that amount at the same level so that we can really take a measure if our techniques are really being, if we can measure our success with these techniques. And we're probably talking about 2 years with all of that combined. And of course, we have newer officers on the department, and there's bound to be a crash, whether it's a minor one or whether it's a more serious one. And sometimes they're just completely unavoidable. But I would recommend leaving that line item the same and just let us have more control over keeping an eye on things.
That's wonderful, because Yvonne was trying to figure out where we're getting the money from.
Yes, if you could, Chief, also let the public and this board know who haven't heard it, some of the things you put in place to reduce some of that premium salary, what we talked about, for example, with detectives. Can you talk about that?
Right. At one point, our detectives, the detectives are pretty busy. They're quite busy. They have a lot of cases. But some of the control measures that we put in are, let's say a detective is on a day shift and he's working a 7 to 3. So instead of trying to schedule an interview with a witness or a victim after his shift is over, then of course he would be overtime. We encourage him to shift your hours so that you will be on duty when this interview occurs, or schedule the interview for when they are on duty. And that seems to have been working pretty good. Also, when officers or when detectives have to go to court, we would very much prefer if they would present us with a subpoena from the state's attorney that says you are required to be there, instead of just showing up in court on a case that maybe they may not need them that day. So that's been working also. Any overtime that they want to do or think they need to do has to get approved by the deputy chief or myself. So they just can't arbitrarily work it, put in a slip and get paid for it. It has to be something that is a productive nature. And if they are on it, they must limit the time that they are on that overtime also.
Have you seen any change from looking at last year's to this year?
Definitely, the numbers are down.
And you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Good to know. I don't think we have any more questions from this board, if you can be available for the public afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I see we got Public Works here. Mr. Stacy, if you could take the microphone.
Good afternoon. We'll start with the premium salaries. That's from the overtime for Public Works. That's over the budget for right now. The premium overtime is with the winter time, is mainly when it goes into effect with us. If we have a good winter, we tend not to have a lot of overtime. Like this winter, we had some nice heavy snows and that's when it causes us to have overtime for us. So that's the premium overtime. The salary's exempt. I'm not sure why it's that high. Yeah, I'd turn that, yeah.
Okay, we need to know what you all said, because Could you clear that up for us?
The salary's exempt. I don't know why it's that high. I would turn that to Ms. Yvonne.
You want to look into that, Ms. Redmond? Okay, thank you.
Then the next one would be the FICA tax. I got no control of that one. IMRF contributions, I don't have any control over that. The next one that is over budget would be the maintenance service equipment, and I'm going to throw maintenance service vehicles into one. One's over budgeted by 112%, and the other one is over budgeted by 128%. Those two, which would be GL 512 and 513, those are going to be for the vehicle maintenance, repairs, equipment, payload or backhoe, our Vector truck. All those are for parts and maintenance for that. Our fleet over there we have is a older fleet, so it's going to take a lot to, if something breaks down, there are times where it costs more because we have to go out further to get it because a lot of parts are sometimes discontinued, or we have to send it out to get it repaired because they'll rebuild it rather than just park it and leave it lay. The next one would be 520, which would be maintenance service sidewalks. That's with the sidewalk repairs, concrete. We were budgeted 20,000 and we're 400% over on that.
Question on that one.
Yeah.
Is the sidewalk a generic term? Are you including like what we talked about before in another meeting, parkways and part of driveways?
I'm
Or
going
are
to
we
say
talking sidewalk in its pure sense.
we do our like the concrete curbing from water main breaks if that's got to come out. We have been doing a lot of B-box repairs in the parkways where the buffalo box is cemented into the courtesy walk coming up, and we tend to have to take either one or two of those squares out depending on the safety of the hole. So it's kind of all wrapped up into one, and I that's why I don't think we broke it down the way we should have with that. But yes, that's all into one. The maintenance service other, I'm not sure offhand what's in what comes out of that account. I don't have that with me. Do you know offhand, Yvonne?
Would you know, Ms. Redmond?
I'll have
Okay.
it break down for you.
So we'll have it before our final budget, hopefully. If you would get with Ms. Redmond so you can know what it is.
Right, okay. The next one, 549, that's other professional services. That's going to be IT or any of the other companies that we have to send, like the trucks out to. If we may have Calumet City come in and do anything, that would be the GL number that goes under, and that is at 104%.
Tree maintenance, you may want to know about that. That's next.
So after that, the next one would be down. The other ones are under budget.
Well, question for you, and it's under
Yeah.
budget, but tree maintenance, can we get an understanding how that works? Because there's a lot of questions on that, and of course, you're under budget. What is
Right.
the cost to us for tree maintenance?
Well, if there's like some trees that are in the parkways, if you go like by the Dolton Park area and some other sections of town where there are tall trees, our truck isn't capable of going up that high to start trimming and bringing it down. So what we would do is we would call a company out that is certified. They have the ropes, the harnesses,
So
all
you
that to hold the
outsource it.
tree. Yeah, to pull the branches and limbs away as they cut it.
We're under budget, but I
So
mean,
question,
so-
do we have a plan for cutting down trees this season for all the residents?
We're going off of every time they call in, we do up the worksheets and we start going out. We've been bouncing the guys like 1 week doing street lights, the next week doing tree trimming and all that. Now with the weather getting nice, we'll start doing it more frequently with the tree trimming.
Yeah, because I think you should cut the trees now while there's no leaves on it. I think it'd be easier.
Right.
don't think so?
Either, it doesn't matter either way.
It's not.
Whether, yeah, it's It doesn't matter if they got
Okay,
leaves or
and then the
not.
list that you have,
Mhm.
can we get a copy of that? So
Yeah.
everybody's on a list and you going in order to
I'm
cut
going by
down
the,
their
when they
trees?
call, in, the girls, draw up a, work ticket. It's in their computer, and then we, keep it in the office, and as we go out doing trees, we give them so many at a time. And what they get done in that day, we'll mark down that we're done, trimmed, cut down, whatever it is.
So how many would you say you have now still?
I couldn't tell you
So you don't
offhand.
know if you got 100 customers?
I
or
don't want to
residents?
tell you a number and it'd be a wrong number.
Okay, well, can you send the board a
Yeah.
copy of that?
Yeah, no problem. The next one that's over budget would be the rentals, 591. The rentals, we rent our oxygen bottles, our gas bottles for the torches. We rent our parts cleaner machine. They come out on a weekly basis to clean it out and put new solution in it. Our oil drums that we store the old oil in that in, those are all rented. Those come out of the rentals. I think we did have to rent something. I can't remember what it was, but if we do any rentals, it comes out of that budget too. The maintenance vehicles supplies, that one is going to be again for the bigger trucks, the snowplow trucks, and that's the account we use to get parts, filters, oil, all that. That one was over budgeted by 104%.
You have maintenance SUP, what does that stand for?
Supplies, maintenance supplies.
Okay.
That would be brakes, drums, hoses,
So
cables.
that's for all of the vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the last one that's over budgeted is the maintenance supplies, streetlights, fixtures, wiring. You got overhead wire, you have underground wire, light bulbs, photo cells, and the overhead wire is an aluminum wire. The underground wire is copper wire, so they're two. You can't use the same wire above ground and underground. So that one's over budgeted by 139.
Right. And so basically, according to this, you're under budget. You said
Yeah,
this right,
total-
about
yeah.
92%.
Total out of the whole budget, I'm under budget.
Okay. No questions? All right. Thank you. I have no questions. Any department head can come up next. I think we only have a couple left, so don't beat up each other getting up here. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly, right.
And who do you represent, ma'am?
Okay. We just start from the beginning on these, from the salary on down. Okay. So our budget for our salary, regular salary, is 259,267. 259,267.
I'm sorry, one of the residents wants you to say your name.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Barbara Batson, the supervisor
Your
of the water
position,
department.
manager.
Supervisor of the water department. Okay. The salary premium, we have 5,470. That is for overtime during, and most time the water department, we don't get overtime, but only during sticker season. Because you guys know we have long lines after hours, so that's during that time. Let me see. Medical premiums, 51,304. The FICA and the contribution, we don't have control of. So I'll go to the postage and mailing. That's number 551 on the line item, 551. The postage and mailing is mostly for our industrial and commercial bills. I send those out monthly. And the shut-off red notices get sent out twice a month right now. and any other mailings things that we may have to
But
going out to
The brunt
customers.
of your printing is the bills. I mean, if you were to look at the majority of, I think Ms. Fields would probably agree, that's what goes out most as far as
Yes.
printing is concerned? Is
Yes,
that the Excel printing bills that we see?
yes. Well, some of the printing, like the regular bills, they go over to Arlo I send them over to Arlo to print out.
Okay.
And that's probably going to be under my miscellaneous expense.
Yeah, this is the water bills to the residents.
Yeah,
that
this
we-
is the water bills to the commercial businesses and the industrial businesses that we send out directly from the water department.
And the ones that we get for our water bills come from Excel printing. That you,
Yes.
of course, would forward to them, and they but you
Exactly.
still cover that expense.
Yes.
The department.
Yes. Okay, and of course, the shut-off notices as well.
Okay, I have a question. So if we sending the bills to residents and vacant properties, we getting a lot of that back. So
Yeah,
what are you
we're
guys doing to alleviate that?
Yeah, we got a program that we started earlier this year. We've been doing basically just given our meter readers about 3 to 5 per day addresses to go by, look at it, see if they can tell if anyone's living there, see if they can tell if the water is on. Sometimes we have to send them over to Public Works to go and check. And then we're inactivating those accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, so believe me, it'll cut it down tremendously.
Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah.
of money.
Yeah,
Just something for you to think about, and it's still in relationship to the budget. I know you give me a report every month, total, and one of those numbers is monies owed over 120 days.
correct.
Is there a way to separate that list? Because there are some that are listed under that 120 days that may be monies we may not ever recoup. For example, it might be a home where someone moved and there's a bill outstanding because we don't have access to the owner. It may have went to municipal collections. Is there a
Right.
way to separate that? Because that would
Yeah,
bring that
you
amount
can
of money
send,
down, wouldn't it?
like the inactive accounts, is that what you're
Inactive,
speaking
yeah,
of?
'cause that's
Yeah,
included in
I
that
can do that.
120.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I can separate it, yeah,
And that way, when we read it to the public, they can know.
right,
Because that number it's not an accurate number.
right.
Because some of that monies, we may recoup at a judicial sale or maybe, am I right, Ms.
Right.
Fields? We may get it on the back end. So we just
Right.
want to separate them so we can know that these are the people who are living in this home and have not paid their bill in over 120 days.
Exactly. I just found out not too long, about a little over a month ago, that Locust is able to
It can do
separate
that.
them, so
Great.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Let me see, where was I at? Training.
Training, is that part of the Locust software?
That
training?
would be, yes,
And everyone is trained on Locust in your department?
yes, everyone.
And I don't want to blindside you with that, but in other departments where they use that software, maybe Ms. Redmond can answer this one, are they also trained in Locust? So whoever has Locust on their workstation, are they trained in it?
Yes.
For their particular module or
Yes.
and they interface with one another?
Yes.
And they can even interface with the payment center, correct?
Yes, yeah.
No? Yes? Me?
I can view. and that's
Well,
all I do.
view is fine, I mean, because it's better that you view, because you don't have access
all
to
I do.
somebody, yeah, because
Right.
you can't have like admin access, that would only be a
There's
couple of,
certain measures,
So we know how to
okay.
use it.
But everybody can see the activity, whether it's
Yes.
real time, right? Okay, the reason why I asked that, because there's a misnomer that these systems aren't talking to one another, so that's not true. They are talking in the sense that one department can see the activity and another, whoever has locus, and have access. Is
Right,
that correct?
that is
You-
true.
You agree?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Utilities,
What is utilities?
that's what I was gonna ask.
Is that our light bill? Like,
That would be your light bill, your ComEd, your NICOR, your cable, that's going 571.
Okay,
but they're sharing that with some folks, right? Because if you look at that amount, it's,
No, it's for, you have to remember, it's not just. Yes, meter director. That would be for next door and also the pump house.
okay.
okay. Because I was gonna say that's a lot for the water
Yeah, that's what I'm
department.
saying. You're sharing that with
Okay.
someone.
Alrighty. The purchase of water,
Everybody know that one.
yeah, it's at $3,307,955. Go down to, let me see, miscellaneous expenses would be, like Andrew Printing, Arlo maybe, I think, and Staples and Amazon that we order supplies and things from.
Well, basically, your department is way under budget.
Yes,
I mean,
we are.
that's-
Yes, we are. We don't usually try to use very minimum as much as we can. We do.
Okay. I'm sure the residents may have some questions concerning
Okay.
water, and we're going to clear some of that up too tonight because
Okay.
of what you've heard on the media. We'll clear that up.
All righty.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Who's next? Do you know the page by heart for permits so I can find it? I don't know.
Page 14.
Thank you. Ms. Sandra Phillips?
Good afternoon, Sandra Phillips, Permits and Licensing.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to start off saying we're under budget. One of the things that's different from last year is our printing. Since we started using a new program called MainStar, that has enabled us to do our own printing of business licenses, our invoices to the businesses, so that we don't have to send that out to Andrews as we've done in the past. So that's brought our printing bill, as you see, it's only $36.
Is that what you sent out earlier this month? When you and I were talking, you said you had to send something out to let them know. You were saying how some businesses
How I
are
have to send out
proactive
invoices. I now create those in-house
in-house.
rather than have that printed
Yes, ma'am.
anymore. Some of our postage has been affected. We've spent $300 so far. What I've been doing, I just do the central mailing, particularly like mailing the renewal for business license. And some of my inspectors actually deliver the license once it's been printed and issued. They take it to the business. Two things: saves us postage. The other thing is they get to make a visit to the company to kind of see what's going on in the company. You know, particularly the food service people. If it's, you know, that's an extra visit that they may not would have done had they not be delivering the licenses. Office supplies is down. You know, well, a couple of times Yvonne has sent us little emails like, please don't order office supplies, so we don't.
She's a dictator.
So, yes, she is. So,
I just want to go up one, and it's a small amount. Other contractual services, what would those be in your department? Is that when we bring in a 1099, like recently?
Yes.
Would that,
Yes.
a freelancer, or I've said freelancers, independent contractor?
Right.
Would that be that category? Okay.
we have a electrical inspector, we have a plumbing inspector.
Okay.
Our health inspector is actually salaried, so. Then when our electrical inspector was out ill, we did use a outside electrical person. So. New equipment, as you see, we didn't use that, but we really need to use that. We could use a new scanner in our department. One of the things that the new program that we're using now, we can scan the documents that we require from businesses into the file. Therefore, you know, you don't, if you lose paper, then it's actually in the system already.
What is your process for allocating equipment? What's the in-house? How do you, like, you need a scanner, right?
Right.
You go to
Derek.
Okay, so you go to IT, and then they in turn would submit an invoice for the scanner, Ms. Radness?
They do the research
Okay.
and the cost and all that, and then present it to finance.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That's about all.
Thank you so much. I had
All
no
right.
questions for you. Maybe the residents might have some. So whatever department, I think we only have two more left. Media? Oh, you want to do yours? You want to do it from here? Okay. Let's get you a microphone. Okay, we have one, sir.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Denise Fields, the Housing Director. Starting out with our budget, the salaries, we're at 100.0, so we're right there. the FICA tax, which we have no control over. If you come down to dues, we're at 100%. We only pretty much pay out one thing, and that's South Suburban Housing Center annual dues. Of course, lawn care, the hot item. We're at 117.89% there. We actually, year-to-date, spent 82,520.
Question on, get a mic. I had a question on the lawn care. I had a question on the lawn care. So we've been cutting grass already. Is that only one?
No, this is from, remember, this is year-to-date, so this would be from May 1st last year.
Last year up until
Correct.
March,
To-
April.
Right.
Okay. And that's, okay, I see it.
This is that fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at 82,520,
Okay,
and our budget was 70,000, of course.
okay.
Board ups, we're at 107.58%. So we spent year-to-date 17,212, and we budgeted 16,000, which we kind of don't have no control over, because we don't know if neighbors call and complain that people are going in and out of the house or something. We send code enforcement, they will go assess the situation, and they only board up where we absolutely need. But again, for those houses that are selling, we will pass that cost back off to the,
At the close of sale.
correct. We're okay on other contractual services. Our next highest thing is maintenance for vehicles. We're at 231.74%.
How many vehicles we talking about in the,
So we have the building inspector, the electrical inspector, who also does the rentals,
that's 2 vehicles.
and the code enforcement vehicles are also under housing.
How many
So
vehicles
that's
is that total?
3.
And they're all old, I'm assuming. Old vehicles.
Absolutely. And I do know that our building inspector have been working along with Director Johnson and Matt Stacy and Brian, trying to get a suitable car, because this car may be a little dangerous, so we may really need to look
I think we
into.
might be getting one of the police officers.
Okay.
Is that right, Chief Collins, did I?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
this year or,
Should we be in the next few weeks?
right, so, I don't know, we should have let the cat out of the bag. Did you know
Well,
that? You did know it.
I don't know. I just figured y'all would do something. So, office supplies were good. Like Sandra said, we kind of keep to the bare minimum. We only order what we absolutely need. Automotive fuel, we're at 80%, and we actually have our funds still there that we have not used for new equipment. We do need 2 scanners and a new computer.
And you talked to Mr. Blocker?
Yes, I've already done that. Just
To replace an old computer,
to replace my computer is terrible.
really?
Yes.
Okay. I have no questions. You're
And we're at 94% to budget.
Thank you. Okay, you got media and,
I'm sorry, I wanted to add one more point. I also wanted to tell you, as far as with the lawn care, you do know we were granted the $75,000 grant. You know how that worked.
yes.
Right, we will get that money. I know that Director Johnson did submit the invoices from 2016, which we had done before, but they did come back and ask for them. We did that, so we should start seeing that money come in, and then we'll get it again for the next year,
So
the
we should be
75.
receiving that within the next few months.
Right.
Because eventually we're gonna have to do it with an RFP for the grass cutter.
Correct.
So hopefully that money will be here before we even bring them on. Great.
Yeah, that's good.
So we can't go, what is the amount for 76? What was it, that amount?
75.
75,000, but we got that twice, so the next one will, come in as well. Okay.
That's it?
Cover budget.
Okay, media.
How's everyone doing today?
Good.
My name is Edward Steve. I am the media director for the Village of Dolton. And if you can look at my budget, I am definitely under budget. And my budget is pretty much the smallest budget of any department. But I'm pretty much under budget for everything. One of the things that I did out of this budget, if you look at the website, I updated the website. And if you look at the website, nice drone footage, different colors. It has a spot where you can advertise or just have to go out and get people to advertise and pay for advertisement. But that's one of the things I did out of this budget. I did a few things in equipment. I bought some new equipment, but nothing major. So, any questions?
Not for me. No. Thank you. I think that's all departments. James, did you have a speech for us today? You usually like to.
Like, nope, let's go.
You always have a lot to say.
No, that's right. Like, nope, not today.
Okay. If we would go by our agenda, I believe it's citizens' address. For those who may want to address this board and have questions for the department heads based upon the budget, you're free to take the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to definitely say, and hopefully everybody is praying for Detective Hope. And I know that you guys had already mentioned the budget, but I know that security is important out here, and we're already down like 2 officers. So what are we going to do in reference to, are you going to hire someone else, or are they going off of overtime, or what's going to happen as far as that? Because I think that's important that we have everyone, you know what I'm saying, as far as security-wise within our village. I think that's very important to have our officers on board.
We can stand up and answer you. As far as the way the shifts work, there's a certain number of officers that are required for each shift. And for the most part, we have more than what we need for that shift. So in other words, if 4 is required, on certain days we may have 5 or 6 officers for each of the shifts. The only place that we would run into a shortage is, let's say, on a certain day where we just meet the actual minimum manpower and an officer calls in sick for whatever reason. Then we'll have to fill that slot with another full-time officer, and that officer would be on overtime, which is the premium salaries that you see in the line items. So we don't sacrifice the safety of the citizens because we don't have the manpower. We have to make that manpower up by filling the slots. And not only because it's the safe thing to do for the officers, because last thing we want is for them to get hurt out there because they don't have enough personnel, but also it is required by contract. Their contract says for safety reasons it has to be X amount of officers per shift per day. So we could be down 5, 6, 7 officers. We have to fill those slots. I mean, regardless if it's you say we're down 2, but it's not really 2 officers. Sometimes, you know, whatever the number is still never enough. But we will always have those shifts filled. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I was just thinking, because it's kind of like puts us back in the same situation. I hate this damn thing. This, well, actually, and the reason I asked that, because I know that we just recently hired 2 police officers, is that right? And it's kind of like puts us back in the same situation, so to speak, from the way that I see it, that we were in. But I mean, I guess you got it all together as far as that, but mainly, definitely, hopes and prayers go out to Detective Hope.
And to add to that, Chief, we had a resident ask 1 or 2 meetings ago, what can we do right now to help this village? And one of the most important things we have is every last Thursday of the month, police community meeting where you can address all of these concerns that we're talking about right now. You can do it in public or in confidence. And while you're there, Chief, based upon what she said, when is your next meeting and where is it at and what time?
This Thursday is the next community police meeting at 7 p.m. It's the church on, one of the churches on Lincoln. I can't remember the address right now.
It's Fleshman's. It's California and Lincoln. Abundant Living.
Right. I couldn't remember right now. But what we do at these meetings, for those of you that don't know, it is the Project Connect Community Policing Meeting. So at the meetings, you are able to talk about any issues or problems that go on in your particular neighborhood. You might be experiencing the same things that others are experiencing on the other side of town. And we talk about it and we try to come up with solutions as a collective body and see if those solutions are successful. And then we continue to address it that way. But what we are lacking is participation. These meetings should be packed, front to back, every chair filled, standing room only. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of participation. That doesn't necessarily mean that no one cares. It just means that there's other things going on in people's lives. They work, they got a household to take care of, they got children to take care of, and sometimes they just can't come out. But what we do is we also, the meetings, the ones that do get recorded, get put on the local access so that you can see what's going on. We also put information on our mobile app. If you haven't downloaded our mobile app, please do so, because we put push notifications out there too, such as if a child is missing in a neighborhood, we put that information out so people can start looking. So there's a lot of information that is available. Unfortunately, not a lot of people take advantage of that information.
Yeah, that's 14540 Lincoln, which
there
is
you go.
Lincoln and California.
And those meetings are the last Thursday of every month except for November, because that would be Thanksgiving. But also for Project Connect, it's not just for information from the police department. It's designed so that you can be connected with the village. You can get information from the fire department when they participate in meetings. You could get information from the housing department, code enforcement, or any other unit of our local government here where you need information. So that is the whole purpose of Project Connect, connect the citizens to our local government here.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm a little late, but I came in on a part that I did need to ask a question. The scanners. I'm just wondering, do we own our copier scanners, or are we renting? What are we doing?
Most of our equipment is through Toshiba.
Toshiba. Now, they have I know we use it in our office, where everybody can use the same scanner to their email, and maybe we can look into that for a cost to see if that would, instead of buying separate scanners for everyone, if you buy one, it's a huge copier that does everything, and you can scan to email, and that might help with it. Are you renting? We don't.
Yes.
So that might be something you want to look into. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Well, if there's no one else, I like to have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Muhammad?
Aye.
Trustee Henry?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.